build an engine for a TR6. This engine came out of a 1971 TR6. It's a straight six 2.5 liter. And what we did is we took this engine out some time ago, sent it to the machine shop. They had it forever. As a matter of fact, when I dropped it off, I think Moses was in high school. So anyway, we got it back. When I got it back, because it was away forever, the block had rusted. The cast iron is exposed metal, it rusted pretty good. I went through it with a wire wheel on a drill, got all the rust off, wiped it down with lacquer thinner and applied a nice coat of TR6 black. So as you see, it came out pretty good here. The freeze plugs right here, I had the machine shop put those in for me. And what they did is they installed them with Permatex 1 hard setting, and they should be fine. When you install a freeze plug, just make sure the surface is clean. When we install the head on here in future episodes, we'll be installing the freeze plugs in the back of the cylinder head. We'll show you how that's done. So what we're going to do today is I'll show you how I installed the crank, because as you can probably see, it's already in there. So we're going to rotate the engine, and I'll see if I can turn it a little bit so you can get a view of the crankshaft. There we go. So what I did here is I cleaned the engine inside and out as best I could. I blew out all the oil passages through the crankshaft, through the block, the cam, where the cam goes, and blew it out with compressed air, got all the dust out. Then I put the bearing shells into the block, 4 of them in there, used my Ultra Slick lube, and I like using this in addition to 20W50 engine oil, because the Ultra Slick stays where you put it. It doesn't drip out. The oil drips out. As you can see, the oil is going to go to the lowest point. So when you initially start the car, that Super Slick is still going to be on the bearings, on the crank, and so on. So put the shells in the bearing caps, 4 of them, put the caps on, snug them up with the ratchet. Before I put number 4 on, put the thrust washers in. And I had, I think, about 6 thousandths clearance with the thrust washers, which I think was good, between 6 and 8. The bearings, the old bearings, let me show you. This is 1/2 of the old bearing. It's pretty worn out. It's down to the babbitt is worn off, and there you see these bearings were very worn. The crank was turned 10 thousandths, and the connecting rod journals were turned 10 thousandths. So we installed bearings that were 10 thousandths oversized. One way that I determined that this engine needed a rebuild was when I would start it up, I'd have pretty good oil pressure, cold, 70, 80 pounds. As the engine heated up to normal temperature, the oil pressure went way down, went down to like 20. Running at 35, idling at 15, 20 pounds, the space from where the metal used to be, the oil was just flying through there. You couldn't build up enough pressure. So you need bearings. We'll get that out later. Okay, we are ready to install the pistons, and I think we're going to get on that. So we'll bring this back up this way and turn it around and come back with the pistons. Okay, here we are. We're going to assemble the pistons and the connecting rods. This one I completed. It's piston number 1, and went together quite nicely. Here's how we did it. Put that there. It's piston number 2. Why are these numbered, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay, pistons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When I took the engine to the machine shop, the machinist balanced each rod to each piston and then fit each piston in each cylinder for the best possible fit. So this piston goes in the first cylinder, etc., etc., etc. They all have to be with each other because they've all been balanced and machined to fit in each cylinder. Let's do number 2. Open up the box here. I got these pistons from British Parts Northwest out of Portland, Oregon, and I love dealing with those guys. They're real quick, the prices are very reasonable, and the products are outstanding. Here we have a brand new piston. It's 20 thousandths oversized. We'll put that on our work spot here. We'll get out our little clips and put those out here. And we're gonna need our lube. So what we're gonna do is get the wrist pin out of the piston. I'm also gonna get some oil here, because you can never have too much oil, okay? Put that right there for now. So we're gonna get our ultra slick here, and we're gonna grease up the wrist pin like this. We're gonna put some in here, okay? And maybe a little bit more here. Put some in here, okay? Then we'll insert the wrist pin into the piston. I like trying to turn it, make sure that ultra slick is slick. We're going to lubricate the small end of the connecting rod here with our ultra slick. Okay, there we go. Now, interesting point that on the top of the piston is an arrow. That arrow points toward the front of the engine, like this. The connecting rod, the bearing cap, faces the camshaft, which is on this side of the engine. So the connecting rod will go in this way. So this connecting rod goes on this piston, just like that. We'll push the wrist pin through. It goes very smoothly. Don't waste your lube. Okay, there we go. Now, this is the fun part, because we need 2 things for this. We need our little clip pliers, and we need our spectacles, because I'm not 50 anymore. Okay, we'll take this, put the clip on the pliers. Hopefully, it will snap right in there. Whoa, that was way too easy. Screwdriver, just pushing the clip down to make sure it's seated in the groove all the way around. Okay, turn it over, push the wrist pin down against the other clip, take the clip, put it in the pliers, okay, and yeah, that's more like it. I don't think I've ever had one go in quite that easily. Okay, again, we take our screwdriver and push that clip down into the groove. You can see the ring will pop bigger when it gets in there. And that's it. That's in. And we'll put a little extra oil on the wrist pin, right in these little holes here. Maybe, there we go. Now, of course, we're going to oil these up a lot more when we assemble it. Okay. Now, one other thing we're going to do here, and there you have it. That's number 2. Okay. And what we're going to do now, because if we can, is we're going to just pop the bearing into the connecting rod. So what I'm going to do is get my 9/16 wrench and take these off. Oh, the guy at the machine shop, he also machined these to be perfectly round. And again, the crankshaft was turned 20 thousandths over, so we're going to use bearings that are 20 thousandths over. Take that off. Oh, that's not going to work. With any British car, you need a hammer. Don't hit it here, just gently tap it on the little edge of the bearing cap, connecting rod cap. Break it loose. There you have it. Okay. Now, here's our bearings. And I can tell these are 20 thousandths over because it says 20 thousandths over. I'm sorry, 10 thousandths over. Yeah, let's get that right, 10 over, okay? Here's our connecting rod bearings. 1, 2, put those over here for now. Now we're going to just slide them in there, make sure this surface is clean. Some people will put some lubrication on the back of the bearing. I don't like doing that because it's not a moving surface. There we go. That's all it is. That goes in like that. It'll center itself, right? Take the bearing cap, the other shell, put it in like that. Make sure you line up the little tab holes there. And push it in. Look at that, just like downtown. And again, when we put these in the engine, we're going to use a lot of lubrication, a lot of oil. We're going to double check real quick. There's the arrow. This piston goes in number 2. And there it goes. And as you can see, the bearing cap is facing the camshaft. That's how it goes in there, okay? Here's an interesting little point before we move on. As you can see, this piston fits in there really snug. There is no movement in that piston, okay? 20 thousandths over, 20 thousandths over piston. This is the original piston. This is standard size. You put that in there. Look at that. Look at the difference 20 thousandths makes, right? So, this is a future ashtray. And there we have it. 2 done, 4 to go. We'll put our little bolts back in here. Just to hold everything in place. There you go. Piston number 1, piston number 2. Repeat that 4 more times, and then we can put them in the engine. Okay, now that our pistons are assembled, we're going to insert them in the engine block. What I'm going to need to do that, I have on the table here, I have an oil bath, a torque wrench, a 9/16 socket, ring compressor, ultra slick lube, oil, and I also have the dampener for it. I'll put that on the crank to make it easier for me to turn as we progress through here. Now before I start doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to clean the surface of the engine block again and the cylinders. They were coated with a nice coat of oil, and oil is just a dirt magnet. It's been sitting for several weeks, it's very dirty, so before we begin, we're going to clean it one more time. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now we're going to clean the top of the engine block. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a piece of paper towel and use lacquer thinner. This lacquer thinner evaporates real quick, doesn't leave anything behind. There we go. Just wipe it down, get all the old oil off, all the dust, dirt, and dog hair. Yes, I have a dog. And that'll be much cleaner. We're also going to clean the cylinders. So how I'm going to do that, again, your lacquer thinner. Start with number one. And we'll go in there this way and get all of the dirt out of the cylinder. You know, this would be a good time to have my wife assist me because her hands are a little bit smaller. But since I don't have one of those, I guess I'll just have to do it myself. Yeah, one time my wife says, you know, you spend way too much time out in the garage. You better pick between that car and me. Sometimes I miss her. You know, especially late in the evening after dinner, kind of quiet. Dishes need to be done. Okay, now we've got the engine all cleaned up, and the cylinders, and the journals on the crankshaft all clean. Now we're ready to put the pistons in. For that, we're going to need spectacles. I just happen to have some. These are blue, they're my favorite. Okay, we're going to take the piston, we're going to take the bearing cap off because it will not fit into the cylinder with the bearing cap on. Okay? There we go. Again, the opened end, the bearing cap goes toward the goes toward the camshaft. The arrow faces the forward part of the engine. So, before we put the piston in, we're going to lubricate the cylinder with Ultra Slick. Okay, we're going to get this whole cylinder lubricated up. And what I do is I put the Ultra Slick on the cylinder like that. Okay. And I'll put the oil on the piston. Okay. And again, before you finish, put everything together and button everything down, give it another coat of oil. So here's my piston, this is my ring compressor, arrow to the front. I'm going to take that piston and just dunk it in the oil, covering the rings. That's got a fair amount of oil on it. I'm going to put that in my ring compressor. I'm going to take the ring compressor and tighten it around the piston, good and tight. Take the piston, put it in there, making sure the arrow is forward. Leave it my persuader. Tap that down a little bit. Make sure the ring compressor is flat. Okay. See the piston coming out here, going in. Arrow's facing forward. Oh, one thing that we have to do that I neglected to tell you. You have to position the rings. The spaces in the rings cannot be in a line. So there's 3 rings, 3 spaces, 360 degrees. I'll put them about 120 degrees apart so none of them line up. There's the scraper ring, the second ring. The scraper ring is right there. I'm going to put the second one right about there. Take the top one and put it right about there. Okay? Then once again, put a ring compressor on there. tighten it down. Okay. Arrow forward. Piston lined up. I also turn the crankshaft so that journal is facing down away from the piston. So if I push this in there too far, I'm not going to nick anything. Okay, make sure that the ring compressor is a nice solid sound. It's flat on the engine. Like magic. Okay, that piston is in there. Now what we're going to do, we're going to rotate the engine. Woo. Our little pin back in, because I don't want to drop this on my foot. Right? Push that piston up a little bit. And put the crankshaft on the piston. Then I'm going to get my little persuader. Oh, that's a nice solid sound. Now I have my lube. I'm going to turn the crank a little bit, get it off the bearing, and put some lube on there. Okay, there's some lube. Get some on the bearing. Now what I'm also going to do is take my little oil can here, and I'm going to put oil right into the crankshaft. Okay. Then put some more lube on the cap. Okay, like that. I'm going to take the cap, dip it in the oil, because we can, and now we want to make sure that the little tabs on the bearing are lined up. We'll put that back on the journal. Put that in. Put in bolt number 1. And bolt number 2. And then take our 9/16 ratchet and snug them up. Those are snug. Now, real quick, we're just going to rotate the crankshaft. No problems. Again, this is snug. When I get them all in, we'll go back and forth them. Finally, I'm going to turn it back over. Put our pin back in. Turn the crankshaft. And there you go. Number 1 piston is ready for business. All you have to do now is repeat that 5 times. We have all 5 pistons in. Torque wrench time. Here we go. Okay, at 42, we'll see if it spins.
little harder to spin than with one piston in, but very smooth. Pistons installed. Next, I think we're going to do the camshaft.